Hello. So, being a Capricorn moon sucks at the moment. What sucks the most about being a Capricorn moon is the fact that I can be having just total chaos going on in my mind, and my face is just I just have learned to mask whatever's going on in here so well that sometimes, even when I'm in therapy, it's hard for me to articulate how deeply painful something is. It's just so hard to articulate how deeply something affects me, or how much I'm actually hurting. It's very hard for me to articulate that sometimes. I've been told I'm good at articulating myself, which I feel like I am, but when it comes to my emotional state, especially when I'm feeling really intense emotions, and it's just really hard to get it across to somebody, or even my therapist sometimes, no, this is really hurting, but the way I'm saying it doesn't make it seem that way. And it's just I'm constantly, it's kind of like you're in a dream, like a nightmare, and you're screaming but nothing's coming out. That's what it feels like. I've cried I've cried so much this past week than I feel like I've ever have in my life. So in one way, it makes me feel better when I cry, but in another way, I'm so uncomfortable with the fact that I've been crying so much. It's just hard. It's just uncomfortable. A lot of this is uncomfortable. I'm facing depression right now, which Capricorn moons are known to face more often, anyways. But yeah, it's just constantly feeling and being really good at masking your emotions, but then the times I feel like we're so good at masking our emotions, but then it gets to a point where we just cannot. And then at those points, everyone can tell what the fuck was going on our face. For example, I had a work party on Friday, which I didn't want to fucking go to. I just felt like I had to out of obligation. And just being there, I was in another room. I had a meeting for something, came out, and the party was starting, and I feel like everyone could just see something was off with me, and that made me very anxious and uncomfortable. So then I went to the fucking bathroom because I just didn't want to be there. And it's hard because I appreciate people's concern. Some people came up to me after and were like, "Are you okay? You look sad," or "Can I give you a hug?" Blah blah blah. I'm like, "Let me get you some water," and it's just oh, I hate people knowing. I hate when my mood gets to a point where everyone can feel it. That's the thing with us. We are so good at masking it, but then when all that shit just comes out, everyone can tell. And I really struggle with that. Finding the balance between expressing my emotions and, you know, keeping it at bay. It's just, I'm not used to even letting myself cry like this, which is why part of me is just very accepting of this going on. Um at this point, I'm over the throat tightness I get when I don't let myself cry. I'm tired of just the random numbness or tightness I get in my body sometimes when I just don't let myself express my emotions. So as much as that was uncomfortable for me, um it it felt I felt a sense of release, I guess, because I actually ended up crying at work 3 times last week. I need to leave my job, by the way, but we're working on that. But I had a very nice person at my job, a colleague, sit with me for a long time. She let me cry things out. She talked with me, so I really appreciate her. But I felt anytime I cry now, there's less shame and more a sense of release, which I feel like is progress. So, yeah. And I think also another aspect of being a Capricorn moon is never feeling like anything's enough because we strive so high for everything. So nothing ever feels enough. But that's for another time, I'd say. I think the most pressing thing for now is just um, the emotional part. It's like, there's like, I wish I said that. I wish I was vulnerable. Like, and I know I'm learning, so I'm really learning to be compassionate, but this is a very weird time in my life right now where I feel like I'm going against the grain of my old self in so many ways. So it's just like I'm constantly I don't know, scratching at the surface. Is that even the right thing to say? I'm not sure, but yeah. Any other Capricorn moons out there going through the same thing? I feel you. I really hope and pray that you learn to express your emotions, because that's like the main goal of a Capricorn moon, is to express our emotions and really feel our emotions. And I'm starting to really understand how to feel my emotions and express them and let them, do what they need to do. Because at the end of the day, our emotions are intuition, I've learned. And I just feel like I understand myself better when I actually attend to what's going on. When I feel my throat's tight, I don't fight that shit, bro. Like, I really try to understand. Okay, I do fight it still sometimes. But for the most part, instead of thinking, why is my throat tight? My throat should be tight. I'm like, what? Did someone say something? Did we not speak up? Usually my throat gets tight when I don't speak up enough. So I'm just rooting for anyone who sees this and is a Capricorn moon. I am rooting for you. I'm rooting for myself. It is hard as fuck. I think also what really hurts and makes it harder is like we're so uncomfortable with being vulnerable and like letting ourselves be seen, because it just feels so raw and like too much. And even like sometimes I feel like what I want to say will just be too much for somebody. So it's like, what's the point? They're just gonna be sitting there like they're not gonna know how to take this information. So what's the point of saying it? So that's what makes all of this even harder. It's we're not used to really trusting that others will be able to like sit there and let us be vulnerable. And like a lot of the times, it's not the case. I just have that constant fear in my mind that I'm just too much, or what I'm going to say is going to be too much. So let me keep it to myself. There's instances where that is true, and there's others where someone that really is willing to sit there and listen to me and console me, but I just have a running fear that I'm gonna be too much for someone. This is gonna be too much. So instead of or being a burden, and in turn I've let others burden me unknowingly a lot with just being a dump. So it's just, I don't know, finding that balance. That's what I'm trying to do with like being vulnerable. Like I never want to feel like I'm oversharing, but I guess we all do that sometimes. I think it's just finding the difference between oversharing and like letting myself be seen. Because not letting yourself be seen is a shitty and very isolating feeling. I'm a little too used to being isolated though, which I'm really trying to bring myself out of, because it's addicting in a way, but at the same time I feel like I don't want to be missing out on too much. But the thing is, like, I kind of forced myself to go to that work party because I thought, okay, let me force myself to socialize, but like I don't even like my job. I'm not saying I don't like my coworkers, but it's just like, the more time I can be home and away from work, which is so terrible to like anyone who hates their job, I really feel for you. No one deserves to feel like this. It's just finding what it's important to go out and socialize, but I gotta remind myself, socializing in spaces I actually want to be in, that's the key. Yeah. It just sucks right now because I guess I'm not an evolved Capricorn Moon yet, which is okay. But the only way to getting to that point is through all this freaking emotional mud and embracing it.